We are on the road to WWE FastLane 2023. Going to give you our match card predictions video here today. Going to preview that, perhaps a bit of fantasy booking, some results as well, and maybe some storyline direction going forward. So make sure to like the video, share with a friend, and subscribe to SCW as well. And let me know what matches you want to see at WWE FastLane in the comments below. I look forward to interacting with you. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. And no surprise, Seth freaking Rollins will face Shinsuke Nakamura one more time. Yes, Seth did get the win at WWE Payback, but Nakamura did attack Seth from behind. On Monday Night Raw this past week, Nakamura did refuse to have a championship opportunity, a rematch the next night. I guess is waiting for a time that suits him better. To spend more weeks on wearing down Seth freaking Rollins' back probably is a good thing and goes into the advantage of Shinsuke Nakamura. But for me, if you're going to do this as a rematch, I think a stipulation is needed. Now, we saw a steel chair involved from Shinsuke this week with Ricochet. I can see more weapons being involved in the upcoming weeks. Perhaps maybe next week we may see a table, and maybe the third week we could just see a ladder. I think maybe if the table is involved, a babyface move, maybe a babyface in a match with Shin gets it out, maybe it's Seth Rollins that gets the table out, but maybe he's the one that ends up through it. Remember, he's got the bad back, we've seen a chair shot as well to the back, that could be quite brutal. If the ladder is brought into it as well, Seth freaking Rollins could be the one to do so. Maybe he gets some revenge on Shinsuke on the build to this show. Therefore, quite simply, Seth freaking Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a TLC match, because, well, we don't have the TLC pay-per-views anymore. I can't actually remember the last time WWE booked a TLC match. I think they can have a lot of fun actually playing this match out. They can make it work with the story-wise, with Seth's back. Shinsuke can look quite brutal in a lot of spots done, and yeah, a singles capacity could be quite fun for this. A lot of times with ladder matches recently, they involve a lot of superstars, whether it's Money in the Bank for the men and the women. To actually have it in the singles capacity, I think would feel quite fresh at this particular time. And as I said, I would share results as well. I think Seth freaking Rollins will retain his championship, although going for a match like this could be vulnerable for a Money in the Bank cash-in. Speaking of Damian Priest, I have him on this card, teaming with Finn, Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. That's right, all three male members of the Judgment Day in a six-man tag team match against Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and yes, you guessed it, main event Jey Uso. Because Jey Uso, well, Dominic Mysterio wants to recruit Jey Uso to the Judgment Day, understands about the family problems, being the outsider. At the moment, Jey Uso being on Raw, the rest of the Bloodline on SmackDown. Jimmy Uso seemingly back in the Bloodline as well. Does that make sense to anybody else? Well, we'll probably try and make some sense of it at some point on this video, and perhaps maybe even on this channel. But still, in the meantime, I think Jey Uso will decline this offer. He's been in one group already. He's finally broke away. He doesn't need no mind manipulation. And of course, Sami Zayn has welcomed Jey Uso onto Monday Night Raw, unlike many of the other Raw superstars. And of course, well, what's going to happen when Kevin Owens comes back? Is Kevin Owens going to be so accepting of Jey Uso? Yes. Is it another will they coexist storyline? Perhaps in the meantime, but I do think that the babyface trio will get one up on the Judgment Day. I expect Finn and Damian to remain tag team champions for the foreseeable future. It allows them to go on SmackDown probably more than what Sami and KO did during their championship reign, and I think with the build of Survivor Series, at the moment the stable seem to be establishing dominance. Who is the top stable? Certainly could be an idea for War Games. However, this trio's match here could also be a build for War Games. Of course, Jey Uso and Sami Zayn were the key ingredients of why the Bloodline won War Games last year, and of course, who did they defeat? Kevin Owens. What will Kevin Owens do if he's on the same side as Jey Uso and Sami this upcoming year? Again, can they coexist against the Judgment Day? Probably as the storyline going in, it's going to be fascinating. It could even be the lead to a Sami and KO breakup further down the line. But one thing's for sure, like I say, Jey Uso, Sami and KO versus the Judgment Day is a match I expect to see on this card. Next, I'm predicting a tag team match. The team of John Cena and LA Knight, versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Now, there is a potential The Miz could still be involved in this. My original prediction was Grayson Waller and The Miz. That is still a possibility with LA Knight taking on The Miz next week on SmackDown. However, Austin Theory does have history with John Cena. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller have been a tag team recently, having one match and, well, picking up the victory over Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. They have claimed now to be the only undefeated tag team in WWE and, well, going one step further, saying they're probably the greatest tag team, therefore, of all time. It feels like that perhaps WWE could be using Theory and Waller going against Cena and LA Knight. Now, my reasoning for why the other two, Cena and LA Knight has said he does not need John Cena to endorse him, and while that could be the case, it is not a bad way to get LA Knight to the next level just that bit quicker. It was clever booking from WWE to include John Cena. Now he's back in the fold in the Payback match as a special guest referee, to have them kind of almost disagreeing but kind of now getting along. I think for a tag team match, again, it is this can they coexist stuff, which, let's be fair, WWE does do far too much of it. At the same time, I do think that they would coexist, and I think they would get on pretty well. Looking at things from John Cena's side of things, if he is going to be in WWE for the next, let's say, couple of months or so, I'm not sure how long he's going to be there for, but I'm aware that he's got about another 6 weeks at the moment he's advertised for. John Cena being involved in matches, singles matches, does put over other talent. You can get over more talent in tag team matches, and not just the people he's facing, but also the people he's teaming with. And let's not forget, if John Cena will be going back to Hollywood afterwards to go back into acting, he'll be protected in multi-person matches. If he goes in the singles match and picks himself out a big injury, that could delay filming when things can get back on track, and, well, that could make John Cena coming back to WWE a lot less likely, and it seems to be what was the case with The Rock many years ago. So for me, I think WWE and John Cena will play this smart. I think they'll do a tag team match, John Cena and LA Knight, and like I say, it could be any of Waller, Theory and The Miz. However, with The Miz match happening with LA Knight this upcoming week on SmackDown, I do think that will be closed off for good, and I think we can move on to Waller, who have a Grayson Waller effect with John Cena, and of course, yeah, that would be interesting to see. And Waller did interrupt LA Knight this past week on SmackDown. Everything links together if you look at it in a certain way, and I do believe that John Cena and LA Knight, of course, will pick up the victory. For the WWE Women's Championship, I've got Io Sky defending against Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair seems to be in the mix at the moment with everything Io Sky related, until this past week on SmackDown when Asuka made her return, and the match was set up for Io Sky versus Asuka in 2 weeks' time. Now, this could be a suggestion that maybe Io Sky will not be on Fastlane, but at the same time, Rhea Ripley also be defending her Women's World Championship against Raquel Rodriguez on Monday Night Raw. So it seems that one of these two championships will be perhaps maybe freed up to have a spot on this card with a fresh challenger. Now, whilst I'm disappointed Io versus Asuka has not been saved for a premium live event, I think there could be storyline reasons of why they're doing so. Like I said, when it comes to SmackDown, Charlotte Flair has been in the background linked with the Damage Control rivalry that's been going on with Bayley and Shotzi for the last number of weeks. And, well, Io Sky did win that championship at SummerSlam, and of course there has been problems with Bianca Belair, Asuka and Charlotte Flair. I wouldn't be surprised if it all leads to War Games later this year, but at the same time, I think Io and Charlotte could be a match they could do at Fastlane. They could then do Io versus Bianca, who could return from her injury in time for Crown Jewel, that could then lead things into War Games. So that's my reasoning of why I think they're going to rush things. And if the rumors of Kairi Sane returning to WWE are true, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a return of the Kabuki Warriors later in the year, which is why I think WWE could be rushing that Io Sky Asuka match for a SmackDown in 2 weeks' time instead of it being on a major premium live event. I predicted this last month. I'm going to predict it this month. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. Now, Shayna Baszler did approach Becky Lynch after beating Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam and pretty much said that Becky would be next. Now, in the meantime, we have been biding time and waiting for when Shayna Baszler will make her move. It feels now there could be a perfect opportunity for Shayna to reintroduce herself into a storyline with Becky Lynch, who has now turned her attention to the NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton. Now, Becky could win the first match on TV and perhaps lose the championship at No Mercy due to Shayna Baszler's interference, or they could simply get the ball rolling as early as next Tuesday. Yes, I think Becky Lynch will be attacked by Shayna Baszler on NXT TV in some fashion, whether, as I said, it's on the weekly show on a Tuesday or on the No Mercy show, and I think that could lead to starting off Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler 1 more time, because Shayna Baszler could pretty much argue that the last couple of years she's been thrown into the background since that match with Becky Lynch that was happening at WrestleMania 36, and she gets over that hurdle, then she can go back into the championship picture. I think the storyline could be simple, could be effective, but I would see Becky Lynch coming out on top. Unless they wanted to carry it over, of course, for a number of shows where that way it would make more sense for Shayna Baszler to win on the first occasion, because I do think we're going to get Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley at some point, whether it's the Royal Rumble. I'm predicting more likely WrestleMania. So we need Becky Lynch to be doing something in the meantime. To have a program between now and the end of the year with Shayna Baszler would make a lot of sense in WWE. I mentioned War Games earlier on. You can add these two women into the mix. Add Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, maybe a returning Liv Morgan. There you go. You've got your women's War Games match all sorted there, with both sides of Raw and SmackDown all taking part. But so yeah, maybe it makes more sense actually for Shayna Baszler to win the first match here, or maybe you can do a best of 3 series, just like we've seen Becky do recently in a rivalry with Trish Stratus, although as I said, we get this one concluded in half of the time. So the last match on this card is going to feature Jimmy Uso, and I said I'm going to try and make some sense of this stuff. Jimmy Uso teaming with Solo Sikoa. Of course, Jimmy Uso has said he's back in the bloodline, and I've got him taking on AJ Styles and the superstar who will be traded to SmackDown. Yes, it is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. That's who I think will be traded to SmackDown. I'm pretty sure most YouTubers you're probably watching or podcasters are probably suggesting Cody is going to SmackDown, because then you can start finishing the story. It can start off simply with Cody versus Jimmy as a program that can go through to Crown Jewel. Maybe it can even go as far as to the Royal Rumble, because ultimately Jimmy Uso would be upset with the idea that Jay has been taken away from him, so he can actually defeat Jey Uso in a match. And of course, Cody then can use Jimmy as the stepping stone to then go through Solo Sikoa to then get to Roman Reigns, whether it involves a Royal Rumble match or Elimination Chamber in the meantime. Of course, AJ Styles as well had issues with Jimmy Uso over the last couple of weeks, and Solo Sikoa as well. Carl Anderson and, well, Luke Gallows don't seem that concerned in the backstage area. They've kind of said, don't get involved with the bloodline. So AJ said, well, stay backstage, I'll do it on my own. So maybe AJ Styles will be looking for alternative help in a tag team match. And Cody Rhodes, like I say, the newest SmackDown signing, could make the most sense. And yes, it feels like a very babyface heavy show here, but I would go for Cody and AJ to pick up the victory. However, maybe it would make more sense for Solo and Jimmy to pick up the victory, because then that way Jimmy would actually have some reason to try and get back into the bloodline, because right now Jimmy Uso has broke away from Jey Uso, and well, he's not been that successful on his own. This could be a reason of why he's actually now more willing to go back into the bloodline, because after SummerSlam, Roman offered Jimmy what he wanted afterwards, and Jimmy declined it. But Jimmy's realizing he can't get the job done on his own, so maybe this is a reason why Jimmy Uso has gone back to the bloodline in the meantime. It probably adds more heat as well eventually when we get to the Jimmy versus Jay storyline, which at the moment I do feel is a bit flat. And as the last reason of why I think Jimmy Uso could be back in the bloodline, I've mentioned in the video already, War Games. If you're going to do factions having domination in WWE, so you want Bobby Lashley's faction, the Brawling Brutes, the OC, you can have Judgment Day. There is many different factions that are going around right now. Perhaps even that's not a faction. I said Jey Uso, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens earlier in this video. You can add everybody in the mix, but for the bloodline, if Roman is to return, which I imagine he would for Crown Jewel, if he's to be around for War Games, where you've got Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, you need one more member. So that could be why Jimmy Uso has been brought back into the mix. However, as said there, it makes sense for both sides. I just think if Cody Rhodes comes over the SmackDown, you want to start him off strong. So I think you would have him and AJ pick up the victory. AJ then can move to the side, and then we can actually start Cody, the bloodline, once again, moving on to WrestleMania, and perhaps Cody can finally finish that story. But that's where we're going to finish the video here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching my match card predictions for WWE FastLane 2023. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. If you like the look of this match card, if you like the perhaps potential direction of my fantasy booking where I can see things going, I'd like to know your input and what matches you would alternatively have for Fastlane. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to like it, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel as well. More videos will be dropping over the course of this coming week. And of course, there's plenty of videos you can check out in the meantime, including what's popping up on the side of your screen right now. Take care, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.